Whether this season just hasn't gone as planned or you're just looking to get a head start on next year, I've got some IDP Dynasty Stashes for you that could end up paying big dividends next year. My name is Bob Van, the IDP Man. Welcome back to the Dynasty Rewind YouTube channel, and we are going to get into that right now. The first player I'm going to throw at you today is Michael Walker, linebacker on the Atlanta Falcons. Now, the reason I like Michael Walker is that Foyesade Oluokun ahead of him is pretty much out on his contract after this season, and there's no guarantee that the Atlanta Falcons are going to re-sign him. There has been occasions where Walker has filled in for Oluokun or Deion Jones, and he's done really well in those spots. Whether that's enough for the Atlanta Falcons to let Oluokun walk is totally to be determined, but he's a guy that I can almost guarantee is out on your waiver wire right now. He's a cheap pickup that if things don't come to fruition, you can just cut the guy. Another guy that may or may not be out on the wire, depending on your league size, format, and how dedicated people are, is going to be Baron Browning, linebacker on the Denver Broncos. Now, I was never really high on Baron Browning in the draft process. My biggest thing for him was I just didn't feel he was a great tackler, and he lacked a lot of production at the collegiate level. However, to his credit, he was never really used in a full capacity as a starter, so this can obviously leave a dent in somebody's production. But with Bronco linebackers pretty much dropping like flies this year, and they don't really have any answers going forward, Justin Sternad is not the answer. I doubt Kenny Young is going to be the answer as much as I loved him as a rookie. If Baron Browning is given any run next year and he can stay healthy, which has been a big issue for him so far in his career, Baron Browning is going to be a linebacker you want on your team. And again, if they do anything, whether it's bring in a free agent or draft somebody at a high capital this offseason, you can just go ahead and cut the guy. Now let's move on to one of my absolute favorites on this list, and that is Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, defensive lineman on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now this is another guy I just wasn't really high on in the draft process. He lacked a lot of production and seemed pretty raw coming into the draft. However, I think he landed in the absolute perfect spot where he can get trained and taught up by guys like Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett, and even Vita Vea, who's shown to be an absolute stud on the defensive line interior. He hasn't got a whole lot of run yet this year, but I think that just makes it more likely that you can go and snag this guy. If he's out on wires now, nobody's really looking at him at this point unless they're like you watching this video or looking for IDP Dynasty Stashes. It would be kind of hard to trade for him, I think, because I think people who have him, obviously had seen the potential already. And if they've watched any Tampa Bay games and seen how Joe Tryon is on the field, this dude is going to be pretty good once he actually gets a role in the NFL. Another guy who I just don't think gets talked about enough is Ashtyn Davis, defensive back on the New York Jets. Since finally being labeled healthy and getting a starting role on that defense, he's only really let you down a couple games out of his 7 he started. He's another guy that if I don't have him in most of my leagues, he's pretty much out on waiver wires now, so I'm pretty sure you can probably find him in your leagues. The things I like about Ashtyn Davis is that, basically he brings a really solid floor. He's always going to be an influence in tackling, and he hasn't quite tapped into that big play upside yet, but I do think that's something that he can get out of his game, and I think he's only going to get better and better in this Robert Saleh defense and improve on going forward. And worst case, like I said, if he doesn't pan out, you just cut the guy. 2 linebackers on the same team that I've grown to really like are Monty Rice and David Long on the Tennessee Titans. Now between David Long, Monty Rice, Jayon Brown, and Rashaan Evans, all of them have been banged up this season, which really makes it hard to project where this linebacker room is going in the future. However, Jayon Brown is on a 1-year deal. I believe Rashaan Evans is coming into the last year of his rookie deal. I really wish we could see Monty Rice and David Long actually side by side, because I think that would be telling as to who down the road is going to be more valuable, because usually one linebacker is significantly more valuable. One's usually a little bit of a safer option, while the other tends to be more of that boom or bust upside option. I think right now David Long profiles to be the safer option that gives you a better floor and more of a consistent week-to-week upside, whereas I think Monty Rice is the guy who can put a solid game together and probably not leave you too disappointed, but he's going to be the guy that goes up and down the most. Monty Rice did pick up an injury tag this week. However, it's not clear if he's going to miss time at all. But if he's not starting, I really don't know what that defense is going to be doing at linebacker, because unless David Long is back and he can play alongside Jayon Brown, they are definitely hurting at that position this season. Another guy whose name you probably haven't even heard since the very start of the draft process, because he didn't get any draft capital, is Quincy Roche, now a defensive lineman on the New York Giants. He was originally drafted the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 7th round, I believe, of the the 2021 NFL Draft. However, he was later cut by the Steelers. The Steelers just kind of have a good amount of depth for the most part on that defensive line, and he was later scooped up by the New York Giants. In the last few weeks, he's been getting more and more reps and actually doing a pretty good amount of damage with it. For a guy that had little to no preseason preparation with the New York Giants in that system, he's pretty much been sent to, hey, go after the quarterback, and he's done just that, getting to the quarterback a few times. This is a guy who I can almost guarantee is out on the wire right now. You can hold him through the entire offseason, see what happens along that defensive line, but it very well could be the Azeez Ojulari and Quincy Roche show as early as next year. He's the ultimate cheap, low-risk, high-upside player that could end up being a starter for you next year. Then lastly, we have another Denver Bronco, and that is defensive back Caden Sterns. Now, Caden Sterns was drafted along with one of my draft favorites, and that was Jamar Johnson. Both defensive backs, both safeties kind of profile as the same guy. However, Jamar Johnson has gotten absolutely no run. He hasn't even made his NFL debut yet. He's been pretty much injured the entire offseason. Caden Sterns is more than likely the guy who's set to fill in for Kareem Jackson down the road, 33-year-old, ripe old age. Currently banged up, Caden Sterns is more than likely going to be filling in. You could probably pick him up if Kareem Jackson is set to miss time, but in a very limited role outside of filling in for Kareem Jackson, I believe twice. Caden Sterns has been extremely valuable on that defense, racking up a couple of interceptions, some key tackles, and really showing promise at the next level. A ton of these guys were available in my own dynasty leagues, but I tell you what, they won't be after this week. If you're looking for some win now waiver wire targets, some of my favorites are actually Packers players. Rasul Douglas, he's a cornerback. I know cornerbacks aren't all that sexy. However, since Rasul Douglas has been starting since week 6, he's been pretty much an absolute force on that defense, pitching in every way he can. He even got the game-stealing pick 6 this past weekend. And then another guy who I like is Rashawn Gary. And a lot of people will call Rashawn Gary's season this year a breakout, but I really think we are still just scratching the surface of what this guy can be and how good he can be at this level. Now, unfortunately, both of those guys have a week 13 bye week. However, if you're looking for somebody this week, Alex Singleton is the pickup for me. Davion Taylor has been shifted to IR, so it's now the Alex Singleton and the TJ Edwards show. That Eagles linebacker room is pretty easy to digest if there's only 2 options worth starting. If you want more win now IDP waiver wire targets, be sure to check out these videos here on your screen now. And if you want more IDP Dynasty Stashes, be sure to check us out on patreon.com/Dynasty Rewind. We are bringing you a ton of bonus content there. You can check that out in the link in the description box below. I do hope you all enjoyed the video today. If you did, please leave a like, comment down below who you're stashing in Dynasty and IDP this year. But that is it for me today. I will see y'all in the next one. But until then, y'all have a good one.